Bryan, let's jump into our defensive keys to victory revisited. And we've got a few that we want to get into here. And the first one was control the interior. And that has been a bit of a struggle the first few games of the season, and which is kind of a surprising struggle considering who came back. And, you had some veteran leadership in there, and they just really haven't controlled the game in the middle up to this point. So your thoughts on how they did after looking at the film against Louisville?
Vince, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this because I'm back and forth on this one.
That's fair.
Part of me wants to go minus because, they did have some pushback and they ran for a decent amount of yards. But when you break the film down, I don't know that the interior of the defensive line was as much of the problem as it was some running back fits. And then also just they had better numbers in the box because you were willing to give them better numbers in the box because you were, like I talked about, I'm more confident that my read of that game was correct. That Al Golden was basically kind of trying to dare them into running the football because it meant that you weren't going to throw it as much and take as many shots. I'm more confident in that because there were just things where it's like, I know Al Golden's a smart guy, and I know he knows they're going to check to a run against that look. I was calling it from the box, and I know Jeff Brom's a smarter offensive coach than I am. I like to think that I'm a pretty good offensive coach. I had a lot of success coaching football. I'm not even in the same stratosphere as Jeff Brom when it comes to an offensive mind, right? I'm seeing it. I know he's seeing it, and I know his brother's seeing it, who's his OC. And it's kind of like, okay, cool. Give it to one of those running backs because that guy's not going to beat us. Number one could, right? Colin Lacey could. Maybe your tight end can, but those guys aren't. And so I was more convinced by that. And I actually looked back and looked at it, Vince, and when I graded the film, and I want to get your thoughts on this, I actually thought the interior of the defensive line played better on the rewatch than I thought they did live. There was a couple misfits for the linebacker level. There were some misses, I thought at the safety level, there were some just pure missed tackles. They run a quick pitch. Xavier Watts is standing right there. He misses a tackle, and Jalen Sneed misses a tackle. So some of those things, there were some mistakes at the second and third level that led to a couple of those big runs. There were a couple times, like I didn't think Jason Onye got off of a block one time on a cutback that I thought he could have maybe got off to and limited that run. But I thought Riley Mills had his best game of the year. He wasn't dominant, but he was good. There was a play where he comes off, he rocks the guard back, throws him, comes off, and gets to the football. We haven't seen him do that all year. He did that 3-4 times on Saturday. Howard Cross had a couple plays where he got driven off, but overall, I thought this was Howard's most consistent game of the season. I thought he was very active. He played with a much better motor. I thought Donovan Heinisch might have had his most physical game of his career, Vince. I thought Donnie Heinisch battled on Saturday.
He battles every week, but I think he had even more success.
He always plays hard.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about like he was getting after it. Like he was getting low. He was driving up into their chest. You may be the way you said it's better. It's not that he battled. This was his most successful game. Right. But I thought he competed his booty off in that game and played really well. Limited the numbers of times he got knocked back. I thought he was very stout. Onye was good. He was a little bit inconsistent at times, but overall he was pretty good. And if you'd had a couple better run fits at the linebacker level, one of their 43-yard runs, I mean, you talk about the success they had with their 43-yard run. I wasn't on the interior of the D line. That was either on a linebacker or an edge. I don't know if that was Oben or Kingston that was at fault, one of those two. And I only say that because I don't know what the call was.
Right.
Now, my thought is that it was on Kingston because
Oben came down so hard. I agree with you. Because he came down, he made the tackle on the
Kingston keyed on the back. And I think he ran with the back instead of keying, the backs. And maybe he wasn't prepared for that. I don't think that was Oben's fault. I think it was Kingston's fault, but I don't want to say that for sure because I don't know what the call was.
Sure.
Right? And great hustle on that play by Leonard Moore, by the way. And great hustle on that play by Jaden Alsbury. Because Jaden was the front side Mike. He was the Mike on that play, the way that they were lined up. Now, I mean, he probably was the Will, but the way they were lined up, he was kind of in a Mike, meaning he was kind of play side of the run.
Yeah.
Kingston was backside. And Jaden crashed the line at the snap, Vince. So he crashes the line, takes on a guard,
And then,
sees the quarterback scrambling, and hustles back and is there to get the ball. Because Leonard and Xavier had no chance to recover that fumble. If a Louisville guy was hustling down the field and Jaden Osbury wasn't, they might recover that fumble because Jaden Osbury was hustling backside or coming backside. He ends up getting there and sees the ball and jumps on it. That was a huge moment in the game. But I thought overall, and then you look at the pressures from the game, Vince. I'm just giving you Pro Football Focus numbers. I didn't think they had a ton of wins to the point where they were getting like a bunch of hits on the quarterback, but I thought they were getting a really good push. I thought Tyler Shuck threw a lot of balls off of his back foot in the game. And you look at the total
Some of them
pressures,
are really good. Yeah.
They have the interior defensive Pro Football Focus, and I would actually have added a couple, just my opinion. But Pro Football Focus has the interior defensive line as having 11 pressures in this game against Louisville. Now, only 1-2 hits on the quarterback, but 11. They had Onye had one and Mills had one, but 11 pressures right up the middle in the face of almost a third of the drops. They had an interior pressure from a defensive lineman.
Well, and I don't know if you saw Pro Football Focus, they tweeted out that Notre Dame's interior defensive line versus Louisville it had an 84.5 pass rush grade, which is first in college football, and 18 pass rush wins, which is first in college football.
Because a win doesn't always result in a pressure.
In a pressure. But
look, that fits with what we saw on film, Vince.
Exactly.
That tracks with what we saw on film.
100%.
And it wasn't just Riley had the game of his career, or Howard had an All-American game, or Onye had a breakout, or Donovan had the best game of his career. It was all of them.
It was all of them.
And I think they needed it. They needed that.
Yes. As a group, they needed it. Agreed.
Right. And that's why I think Louisville also had a lot of 5-yard runs and not a lot of 20-yard runs.
Yeah.
Because they were having to make cuts behind the line because the defensive line wasn't getting pushed back the way that they like. And there was one play where like Howard got knocked back, but on that particular play, Riley threw the guard off of him and made a tackle for a 2-yard gain. Like we hadn't seen that in the past. In the past, that's an 8-yard gain.
Right. Correct.
Right. Well, now it's a 2-yard gain.
Right.
And there was a time Onye did that. There was a time where I thought the 3 technique got sealed inside, but Donnie Heinisch shot so hard through the A gap that the running back just kind of ran into the line.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, so I give this. I'll give it a plus. I thought they played really, really well. I'll give it a plus.
And
they bounced back because they weren't playing well.
Well,
so that adds to it as well. They needed to step up in this big moment, and they did. That gives them extra bonus points for me.
I get you. You kind of grading on a curve just a little bit because of what they had done before. So I understand where you're coming from. I'm a little more. I expected more at the beginning of the season than I was getting from them, and now I'm starting to see it, but I need to see it more and more consistently.
Sure.
So I'm in the check range for this.
Yeah.
I'm just not ready to go plus yet.
Big picture, agree with you.
Yeah,
for this game, like if they had played all year like they are in this game, would you be saying they're living up to the high expectations we had for them?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like if you could take the bad taste of your mouth out of the first 4 games,
right?
And this is how they always were. I think we'll be talking plus. But I think if you're going to grade them on a whole, I get that.
Okay,
I get that.
Cool.
I get that.
Next defensive key to victory was be disciplined. And there were definitely some times where the defense was not disciplined in this game. But your overall thoughts on the discipline of the defense?
Overall, I'm going to give them a check on this one, to be honest with you. And the reason I'm going to give them a check is because there was definitely some big mistakes in this game that were lack of discipline mistakes from, not reading the read zone properly and giving up the 43-yard gain, right?
Because that could have been a disaster.
2 blown coverages on the first drive and touchdowns. You turned the guy loose on the second touchdown pass. There were some other times you had some bad run fits that resulted in big plays. You had your All-American safety who otherwise played brilliantly, but had that one really bad missed tackle where he didn't break down and bring that guy down in space. You had a lot of stuff like that going on. And for the most part, those mistakes were made by young players. The exception of the one missed tackle by Xavier, who more than made up for that later with that brilliant interception. The mistakes were made by the younger players in this game. Kingston, giving up a seam, Drake having a bad misfit, not getting out on emotion, which is as much of a scheme problem as anything, or a preparation problem as anything. Drake had an early misfit. Outside of that, he was brilliant. I mean, so you had some of those plays, Vince, that you have to say, well, those are minuses, man. Those are definitely minuses. But, and then there's another big one from Jordan Clark where he headbutts a guy. And listen, I don't want to hear I understand. Guy spit in his face. I get it. Why? Look, if you've ever played college football, you've been spit in the face before. Look, and it's disrespectful. And if you did it to me in person, you're getting punched.
It's different.
You're getting punched. I get it.
Assault.
But there's a lot of things that if you did to me in person that you did to me if you just came up behind me in person and blindsided me when I'm holding my drink, you're going to get knocked the F out. If you did that in the game, my left tackle blew his assignment and you're doing your job.
Right.
Right? So, don't justify that. It's disrespectful. You say, hey, man, me and you, we're going to meet out in the parking lot after this thing is over with. But in the middle of the game, you can't make those mistakes.
That was a bad moment.
You can't do it. You get in his face, you let him know, blah, blah, blah. You tell him, you let him know this isn't going to fly. And the next play, within the whistle, you knock him the F out. Within the whistle. You don't headbutt a guy, because here's the thing. Now, your attempt to recover your pride, which again, I understand. There's not a whole lot of things dudes can do to you more disrespectful than spitting in your face. Amen to that. But you now, to get your pride back, to respond to your, how you feel you were come at, and you now hurt your entire team.
Correct.
You get me?
Spot. Put him in a tough
and so
spot.
Again, if somebody did that to me in person, I'd fight them. Okay, yeah. If somebody came up and stalked blocked me at the restaurant, we're going to have some problems. You know what I mean? If somebody came off and crack blocked me at the restaurant, we're going to have some problems.
I just have these
Everything you
now.
do on the football, if somebody just grabbed their napkin and threw it across the room at me, hit me right in the chest, we're going to have a problem. I'm just throwing you a pass. I don't know you. Don't throw your biscuits at me anymore. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that you can do in life that if you did it on a football field, it's two different reactions. You know what I'm saying? So I get it. I'd be pissed off too. I have no problem with Jordan being pissed off. I have no problem with Jordan getting some payback. But you get payback the way every other football player for 100 years has done. In between the whistle, in a way that you're not going to get flagged to where you now hurt your entire team. Because you had them backed up inside the 15-yard line, and that gave them some big room.
It gave them new life, because wasn't that third down?
It was going to be 2nd and 8. I think it was a first down.
Is that what it was? Okay.
It was after a quick 2-yard run, and so look, here's the reality of it. People, it's like some people in the chat, like they're just not listening to me.
No,
right? The point is, if you've ever actually played football competitive level, you've been punched in the gonads, you've had your ankles twisted, you've been punched in the ribs, or maybe this is just me, Vince. You've been punched in the ribs. You've been spit on. Dudes will pee on you in the middle of a football game. That's a thing, y'all.
Yeah, it is.
Ask anyone that's played in the NFL in the last 20 years. It's ridiculous, the stuff but they're trying to get you to retaliate.
To do exactly what he
did.
Yes.
And you retaliate the right way.
Right.
Defensive lineman punches you in the nuts when you're under the huddle. You know what you do the very next play? You bury him. Bury him within the whistle. Those type of mistakes will get you beat, just like the bad fits and so there was a lot of that stuff in this game, Vince, where I thought was undisciplined on defense. However, overall, the course of the entire game, I thought they did a lot of really good things.
Sure,
a lot of really good things in regard to, like there was the sprint out where Jalen Steed had the sack. Right? Like if you go watch, and I actually think it was Jordan Clark on this particular play as well. No, it was a later one. But the defense, the secondary just stayed on the receivers. The quarterback was trying to bait them to come up, and they're like, nope, we're not doing it. There was another play early where they were running like a kind of a flood concept, and Jordan Clark drops underneath the outcut. And as soon as the quarterback takes his eyes off he was trying to bait Jordan Clark to come low, and Jordan didn't bite on it. But so he stayed back, and as soon as he started to throw shallow, Jordan drives on it and blows the dude up.
Yep.
Like, that's discipline. That's
Jordan
don't
played.
fall for what he's trying.
Yeah.
That's what's such a bummer about that one mistake,
Yes,
because
because
outside of that, he had
yeah.
a phenomenal
Had
football
the
game.
best game he's had in a Notre Dame
Phenomenal
uniform,
football
man.
game.
He played so well, and I hate the fact that this extracurricular play overshadows the way he played in this game, because
I don't
he
think it
played
overshadows
so well.
it. I don't think it overshadows it. It doesn't
should-
justify what he did on that play.
Right. It's not overshadows, not the right word. It tarnishes a little bit.
Yeah,
like
a little bit.
It does. So, because Dad would be on Twitter saying what a great game he played, as opposed to making an excuse.
Well,
like that.
Yeah, he did say what kind of great game he played, but to your point, his dad has to explain away why that happened. And part of the reason I think Jordan did that is you look at his dad's response and you're like, okay, this is exactly now. In Ryan Clark's defense, and I don't necessarily love to do this. I don't agree with a lot of things Ryan Clark says. I respect that he's open and honest with his opinions, and I respect for what he does, but we just don't agree a lot. But we don't know that Ryan Clark's private message to his son was the same as his public one.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? Like, sometimes, like, you may say, hey, listen, I'm going to defend my players and my team publicly to the hilt. In the locker room, we're going to have a different conversation.
Sure.
Right? I'm going to go into that press conference to defend my quarterback to the hilt. But he's not going to like the one-on-one he and I are going to have in my office when we're watching film the next day.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So that I would hope that was kind of what happened with Ryan Clark and Jordan, which is publicly you defend your son, because like I said, what happened to him is one of the most egregious things you can do to another man. And you know me, Vince, I'm a big fan of masculinity in the proper form is a very good thing. I'm not toxic masculine. No. We need more masculine in this country. There are certain things that you do where just by being a man, some retribution is, if you didn't retaliate at all, if you just let that man do that to you, I might have pulled your man card a little bit. Mm-hmm. But there's a right and a wrong way to retaliate. And that's the lesson that I would have for Jordan Clark. I wouldn't be like, hey, man, you got to take it. You just got to take it. You got to take it. Guys, you got to take it. No. I'm like, hey, man, here's what you do. Next play, it's a run play. You run up and you not, like within the rules, knock him out. You know what I mean? Like, drill him. He's coming to, block you. Go at right at his, you know what I mean? Like, there's ways to get it back. And there's ways to say, you want to get a guy back, this is the best way to do it, because that receiver wasn't hurt, but he's got a freaking helmet on. He wasn't hurt at all by Jordan Clark headbutt him. He got no retaliation to that guy. All the punishment was on Jordan. He got a 15-yard penalty. You think that guy was like hurt? No, he's got a freaking helmet on. You know what I mean? You could have got him back in other ways. And that's my point. And the fact that he did that is we're sitting there talking about that instead of, holy crap, Jordan Clark played a phenomenal game. I might have given him player of the game if he didn't have that penalty. He was one of my runners up, but I might have given him player of the game if he didn't have the penalty. Because it wasn't just the plays he made, and he had one coverage mistake on that one wheel route where him and Junior were both playing the running back swing, and that guy snuck behind him on a wheel. I thought that Jordan's has to sink underneath that. That's going to happen when you're playing against a Jeff Brom team. He's going to have a couple of plays. He's just going to get you. You know, we'd be talking, but it was also about getting guys lined up. As he's running across, making sure he's communicating to people. I mean, he just played an excellent game, and I think that's my thing with the defense is, yes, there was mistakes and things like that. Some of it was by Louisville. Some of it was, like the one mistake that I think Drake Bowen, I thought had, in coverages, he's got to get out more. But it was a great play call, man. It's like Jeff Brom stealing from Owen Hart. He put a receiver at running back and motioned a receiver out to away from the corners because they had, and then so Drake's now got to go cover this guy. And it's a great play call. I promise you that's not something that Notre Dame prepared for. Their first touchdown, they're running a running back through the line into the corner of the end zone. Does Boubacar have him? Does Kaiser have him? There's some uncertainty. That's a pretty good play call and a tendency breaker from Louisville. So when you play Jeff Brom, some of those things are going to happen. Right. But when you tie it into the next key, Vince, I think the fact these 3 and 4 kind of went together, and the fact that for the most part you limited the big plays, which is key number 4. This is a team that came in, and in 3 games, Vince, they had 12 plays of 30 yards or more. and I think they only had 2 in this game.
They
right? Am I correct
had
on that?
1 pass and 1 run. And one of those, and the 1 run obviously ended with a fumble.
Right. And I'll say this, the 1 pass was, I'm trying to think what play that was. It was to Colin Lacey. I'm trying to remember
34,
which play it was.
Yeah, 34
it was the
yard
second
pass,
half of the game.
3rd and 7, third quarter, 8 minutes and 40 seconds to go.
I don't remember that play. But like the Ja'Cory Brooks had a 27-yard gain on Benjamin Morrison. To me, that should have been a penalty on the offense. I thought live Benjamin just got beat. I thought, and you and I had 2 different thoughts. I thought Benjamin did a poor job because I was actually watching him from the box, and he went to jam and he kind of stumbled and fell down, and Ja'Cory Brooks ran him. You looked at him later than I did. You went to him as the play was going on, and it looked like he was in cover 2 trail mode, and there was no safety coming over top. So then you're thinking blown assignment by Benjamin because there was only 1 high safety. There's no way that could have been a cover 2.
Right.
But if you go back and watch the TV copy, this is one of the few times because I actually looked at it all 22. I was like, that doesn't look right. And then when you go watch the TV copy, Ja'Cory Brooks basically grabs him either by the helmet or by his upper shoulder pads and swings him down and then gets free. That is a offensive penalty. You can't do that. Can't grab a guy by his helmet or his shoulders and throw him down. That's an offensive penalty, in my opinion. Should have absolutely been. And you can look at Benjamin after the play, he's like looking at the ref like, you know what I mean? Like, what the heck? And just a little side note, that's a dirty football team.
Yeah, it was.
That is a dirty football team, Louisville.
No doubt.
And when you watch the All 22, Vince, you see a lot of stuff happening on film. You're like, dude, that's a dirty football team. And but you know what the refs did for the most part? They let them play. And Notre Dame gave it right back to them legally, with the exception of 1 play. And that's why they limited the big plays. I mean, a team that was averaging 4 plays of 30 yards or more per game had 2 of them in this game. And on one of those 2, they lost the ball. You put those 2 things together, Vince, and you say you can't do that to this defense without a somewhat of a pretty high level of discipline, even though we can point to a mistake here, point to a mistake there. Overall, it's a pretty darn good performance. Right. Pretty darn good performance from the Notre Dame defense. And so I give them those last 2, I give them pretty high marks on, Vince.
Yeah,
I do. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you. The limits of big plays.
Especially when you consider how young Notre Dame was on defense for most of that game at linebacker. Because Kaiser, your leader on the second level, did not play the entire second half because of an injury.
Right.
So, sorry, go ahead.
No doubt. No, I thought, going into this, limiting the big plays was going to be like my number 1 key to victory for Notre Dame. Like that, going into it based on all the big plays that Louisville has had up to this point, considering the way that Jeff Brom can scheme guys open into big plays and all of that, limiting the big plays was my number 1 thing that they had to do. They had to get it right if they were going to win this game. And I give them a plus on that. Like, I thought that they did a fantastic job of limiting the big plays. Some of those plays, some of those pass plays, like the one-handed catch, and some of them were just there's no way you can even defend that. Like, I don't even put that on the defense because they were in good position. They were playing good defense. Those guys just made a play. You know what I mean? And even the touchdown.
That was that other big play, Vince. I went back and looked at it. It was that one-handed one. You're like, what do you that's what you forced them to do, though. You forced them to either cheat or make ridiculous plays to beat you. And even the last touchdown, which was not a 30-yard gain, the touchdown to Ja'Cory Brooks, that was a phenomenal ball and a phenomenal catch against pretty darn good coverage.
Right. Yeah.
And we said before the game, they're going to get some.
Sure.
You're not going to keep them from no plays of under 30,
possible.
But you got to make them work for it. And that's exactly what the Notre Dame defense did in this game.
Well, and then I also want to highlight the sidearm throw as Drake Bowen was, putting his entire body weight on the quarterback. I mean, that was just
about the touchdown.
An amazing play. Yeah, the touchdown. Right. Like that was.
You turned the guy loose, but it was way behind the play, and it required him to just make a ridiculously good throw.
So I mean, look. that ended up being a big play because it was a touchdown, obviously, and okay, fine. But overall, I give this defense a plus on the big plays. I thought they did a fantastic job.
Yeah. I give them a check on the discipline, a plus on the limiting big plays.
Okay, cool. I'm there. I'm there with you.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm right there. The last one for the defense was defend the middle of the field. I thought outside of the one play that KVA gave up, over on the seam, I'm trying to remember this. Everything else was pretty much on the outside. So I feel like they defended the middle in the pass game anyway. I thought they defended the middle of the field pretty darn well.
I agree. I mean, and you had that. It was a 27-yard gain to the tight end on that seam play.
Right.
But outside of that, you had the outside touchdown catch. You had the outside one-handed catch. You had the one deep ball that they beat Benjamin Morrison on where, again, that should have been offensive pass interference because that guy got open, just was not getting that open against Benjamin. Right. You defended some other deep balls very well. And then the big drop over the middle, that they had two drops over the middle. One was lucky because he wasn't thrown to that guy. The play to the tight end, he was not thrown to the tight end.
No,
not thrown to the tight end. The other one was Benjamin had a bad close on a dig route, and the guy dropped it, and then Xavier picked it. But if that guy catches that ball, Xavier's going to light him up because he was right there. He was going to light him up. So, yeah, he'd have caught it, but it's like a 14-yard gain, and he gets drilled. Yeah, and that's assuming he holds on to the ball if Xavier lights him up.
Right.
But he drops it, goes right into Xavier's hands, and you return it back. So, I mean, again, you're going to have some of those plays, Vince, where they're going to catch some. But the fact that you limited Louisville the way that you did was impressive. I mean, it was really impressive. I mean, this is a team that came in with a very, high-octane pass offense that I believe was averaging – I think they were averaging close to like 10 yards per pass attempt coming into this game, Vince. I think they were over 10 yards per pass attempt. I'm actually going to go look this up, but I believe coming into the game that Louisville – and I know that and the thing is too is – their best yards per attempt game of the season was not against at Austin Peay. It was not against Jacksonville State. It was against Georgia Tech. And so, yeah, they went for 14.2 against Georgia Tech yards per pass attempt, Vince. So let me just go find this, my stacking up. Here we go. So Louisville pass offense, they came into this game averaging 10.5 yards per attempt and 14.7 yards per completion. Against Notre Dame, they averaged 6.4 yards per attempt and only 11 yards per completion, which is an okay number, but not a great number. And especially when you consider that they had to cheat on one play to get a 20-plus yard game, and they had to have a ridiculous diving catch for another one. That's pretty darn good performance.
Yeah.
It's pretty darn good performance, in my opinion, from your defense when it comes to control. And a lot of that is because you did control the middle of the field. What is the lowest percentage throw to make is the deep outside balls is one of the lower percentages to make. They did a great job of we'll get into the mix-up coverage, but they did a really nice job. I thought the linebackers did a pretty good job. But here's another reason why. This goes back to point number one. You want to know another reason why they did well over the middle of the field? It's hard to throw over the middle of the field when you're throwing off your back foot because the interior of the defensive line is in your face the whole game. Right. As a former quarterback, it is super hard to step into throws over the middle or see what's happening over the middle when D tackles are coming right in your face. Really hard because there are no passing lanes. And so, I mean, I give this check plus, honestly, Vince, because like you said, outside of the one play up the seam, you did a pretty darn good job of shutting down the middle of the field against a coach who really likes attacking the middle of the field to pass game.
Yep.
So I give him a check plus for this one, if not a plus. If I had to pick one, I'd go plus
for me. Yeah, I'm in the plus category. And Sean and I were talking about the stats a little bit, in the last show earlier today, and he was wearing a shirt that said, stats are for losers or something like that. And it was funny because, look, if you just look at the stats of this game, right? Louisville put up some decent offensive stats, totals, I should say. They're totals, but you have to also remember, it took them 41 pass attempts to get 240 plus yards of
264
offense. Or 264, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
41 pass attempts to do that. He's only 59% completion percentage. Like, he had to work to get those totals, right? I mean,
Coming into the game, Vince, his lowest completion percentage was 65.7. His lowest yards per attempt was the opener against Austin P, where he completed 8.2, and he completed 79.4% of his throws in that game.
Yeah. So, I mean, he had to work to get those numbers, and Notre Dame made him work.
Lowest yardage output of the season, 264. Highest passing attempts in a game so far this season.
So there you go. So, I mean, that just tells you right there that the Notre Dame secondary was on lock in this game. So that's going to do it for our defensive keys to victory revisited. Stick around. We still got some more coming. But in the meantime, make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification bell, share with your family and friends. And, of course, jump on the boards.irishbreakdown.com. Lots of good stuff over there. You're not going to want to miss it. I believe there are going to be some breakdowns put up there, some video breakdowns tomorrow. At some point this week. Yep.
Be tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah. That's what I figured. Again, it is a bye week, so things are a little bit more spread out. But, hey, it's still going to come your way.
I am going to do a defensive breakdown this week.
There you go. See,
that's what happens. Stuff to show, That's
what happens on the bye week, folks. You get a little bit extra, a little extra coming your way. So make sure you get over there on the boards.irishbreakdown.com.